Hey everyone, how are you today? Uh, I hope all people here having a great time, having a wonderful, productive day. Hey Brian, how are you?
Hey, doing good, Michael. How are you doing?
Good, Brian. Guys, Michael here, as always, your host for Folderly webinars and Belkin's webinars. Here to share some things that I learned recently and just to kind of entertain you guys and just have some fun. I have Mr. Brian Hicks with me today. Mr. Brian Hicks, who is our VP of Sales for Belkins. Brian and I actually had a webinar like this almost a year ago. Exactly, I think it was September, October, Brian. I think, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And we talked about how to close outbound deals, etc., etc. And it's high season, so Brian and I we thought like, okay, let's connect and let's have another webinar and let's just discuss and just highlight some of those best practices or things that can be done by you folks, to build an effective sales campaign and just run your sales campaign smoothly. So Brian, have you been busy lately? How is the high season going?
Holy moly. Q3 has been the busiest quarter of the year. I looked at my calendar at the beginning of this week and I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Right.
And, it's ever present though. It's awesome. I mean, it's crazy to think that we're even in Q4. We're getting ready to go into Q4 2022. It's kind of mind blowing how fast this year has gone. But I guess that's a good thing.
This is a good thing, but I remember when we started the year back in January 2022, I had a hands-on meeting with the team and I say, you know what, we're already running late for this year. It's already, and it's already January. We just had 11 months to go and now it's already end of September. So it's basically 3 months, right? All right, folks. So basically today's topic would be proven email strategies to top up your sales quota in Q4. So, obviously, we already, too late to change the game. However, there are some little things that we can do right now to, to successfully adjust our process and, and run our campaigns or run our marketing smoothly. So Brian and I today going to be talking primarily about four things, right? So we're going to talk about the top challenges that sales people are facing and how to overcome them. And we're just really going to be brainstorming and throwing out some things that we are doing here at Belkins and Folderly and all the projects we are running here. We're going to talk about where and how businesses are investing in sales development. And I really wanted Brian to share his, experience talking with other businesses because as you heard from Brian, he's been very busy. So talking to a lot of different folks that are running sales and marketing. So we really wanted to tap into that experience and just, discuss what are the companies what are the people that are doing right now and what you guys can do differently or similarly, right? We're going to also discuss common challenges that people experience when they send emails but they didn't prepare for it, which is very important, right? Because there are some folks that just running email campaigns without preparing. And the last 10, 15 minutes, we're going to discuss the cutting edge tips and hacks to spike up your sales with emails, right? And obviously, folks, there will be a Q&A session at the end. We're probably going to spend 15, 20 minutes just talking and brainstorming. So whenever you have questions, just jump into a chat section, put down your question, and then we're gonna be sure to answer all the questions at the end of this. All right, but please be sure to ask questions when they pop to your head. All right. So for those who just join us and who don't know who me and Brian is, so I'm one of the founders at Folderly. So Folderly is an email deliverability platform. Essentially what we do, we help you folks to get better in your email game. We help you to increase your open rate, reply rates, to get more appointments, to get more sales through providing a comprehensive platform that measure, warm up, and fix your email deliverability. So essentially, whenever you send out emails, if you're going to be sending your emails together with our platform or like having our platform supporting your deliverability, you're going to generate more revenue. And then Brian here is our VP of sales for Belkins, and Belkins is the point of setting agency. Actually, this year we've been ranked as #1 agency worldwide and based on customer reviews. So if you go and check out Clutch, G2, Compare, all of those reviews, you're going to see that we guys have all 5. So the team has been doing stellar work over the years, and this year. We just highlighted that. So so let's just kind of dive into the content real quick because we don't have a lot of time. So the top challenges that B2B sales are facing and how to overcome them. So really everything in 2022 goes down to 3 points based on our research and based on our experience. So there's too much noise out there, right? New acquisition is very, very expensive, and sales and marketing becomes too complex, right? So let's just dive into the first point, right? Like too much noise. What do you mean by too much noise? So essentially, it becomes increasingly difficult to attract leads' attention via traditional methods, right? Like there's so many noise out there in every channel. And because of that, you can imagine you to get through the noise is going to take more sales or marketing touches, more things to do, right? And the first point, I think that what kind of we think in terms of how to get through the noise or how to address this challenge that so many companies have these days is that you don't need to invest in one channel, but rather run an omni-channel approach is much better. So try to invest in all of these channels. And we're going to speak in a minute about the different percentage of how many businesses are investing in omni-channel. But right now, Brian, what do you think, based on your conversation with other business owners, how many companies percentage-wise are investing in many channels rather than those that are just investing in one or two channels?
It's overwhelming. I would say greater than 90% of businesses that I talk to have a multi or an omni-channel approach. And the way to think about it is to look at your value proposition and look at your market and to determine based on that fit and based on your ability to identify prospects that have a need, where those investments should be heavier loaded. It doesn't necessarily mean you should invest equal investment in every channel, but look at the channels and recognize that there's value in each of them. And so having an investment in inbound marketing advertising spend, having an investment in outbound, having an investment in ads, all of that will equal ROI if put together perfectly, if you have the right strategy.
And that's actually the same what we do here at Balkans and Folderly. We are really trying to maximize each and every channel. And very often I am asked like, well, Michael, we obviously don't have budget to run our marketing through all the channels, right? Where do we focus? What is the right channel for us? I always think that and always say that obviously, you need to decide that through A/B testing, right? You need to make sure that you tried all the channels, you emphasize on the channels that generate more ROI, and then you're focusing on those channels. But at the same time, you never skip on any channel because you would be surprised by continuously investing into marketing and doing that throughout month to go. Sometimes deals just are added to the pipeline from the sources that you didn't expect. So really having all the sources is very, very important, even though you don't need to invest a lot in all of them. Just really, putting a few dollars in every channel would still make sense, but just kind of really always A/B testing and then highlighting the right channel. Other point, focus on marketing channels that lead to the acquisition, not the engagement. So I really wanted to highlight this point because the first mistake that a lot of marketers and just people in sales are doing is that they are they're working on the process rather than working on the result. And when you change the mindset and change the approach to focus on the results only, you would see much higher results. So what I mean by that, for example, sales example, right? We all been in sales, obviously people that are joining and listening to this. And in sales, very often when you have 50, 70, 100 meetings a month and you are focusing on building your pipeline, you are focusing on, closing and selling to each individual who adds into your pipeline, right, Brian? But then that's not the right sales process, right? Because the right sales process is to being focused, to being vertical, right? So it's like, I really wanted to focus on 5 or 10 deals that I could close this month rather than just going out and just focusing on all of them and spending my time and just spreading my attention. The same goes with marketing, right? Very often, because we're focused on the process, we wanted to create blog posts, we wanted to create LinkedIn posts, we wanted to run email campaigns, but we don't focus on the results that these campaigns, or these blog posts give us. So by focusing on the channel or on the process that just generate the revenue for us, it's very important because then you're pinpointing like, okay, this is what I need to do in Q4 to be able to close as many deals as they can, and just really being focused on something that worked only, but not generally on everything that you just kind of used to doing in your process, right?
Absolutely. And just to add to that, so how do you do that, right? The way that you do that is you track where you're spending your money, and then you track what that investment is driving in terms of outcomes. So you should know, if you closed a deal last month, you should know where that deal came from. Did it come from inbound marketing? Did it come from Google Ads? Did it come from outbound? So then you can start to gain some expectation and predictability around what those channels are going to drive from a return on investment perspective. If I close 15 new clients last month, and I look at the breakdown, and 10 of them were driven through inbound marketing, and then 5 of them were driven through outbound marketing, then that lets me know where the ROI is coming from. That way I can focus my attention on what's going to drive more of those results. Ads are kind of a tough one for me because, and don't get me wrong, I believe in the value of them, but a lot of times when you look at it, the ads, the purpose of them is just to drive clicks. Well, clicks doesn't always equate to dollars coming back to you of closed deals. And so having that visibility and having that insight is super important as you start to expand your marketing reach.
That's a great point, Brian. And we're going to talk about advertising in a few minutes, really. So going down to number 3. So create a foot in the door offer that is sensitive, time sensitive, very important, and then create immediate value for the customer. So some of us are running service, some of us are running product, right? And we not necessarily can build a foot in the door offer or a trial or a pilot, but really try to focus on some small things that you can give to your customers right now in Q4 that don't spend a lot of time or money on, but that create a value and create something the customer would care about and want to consume, and that would help you to get through the noise. Because very often when you highlight that foot in the door offer in your messaging, in your social, in your email, that's when customers, juices gets going, and they would want to engage with you. And this is the approach that a lot of our SDRs and BDRs are using, right? They're highlighting that 100 test leads or that free trial that you can utilize and get, and get value right now. And then by highlighting that, you can get many eyes on your campaign right now. That was very, very important for the Q4, just to build that pipeline at the end of the year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is all about separating yourself from everyone else. The reason that it's becoming increasingly difficult to attract leads' attention is because competition is increasing. There are more businesses that are coming into your space and your competitive space. And so your ability to think outside the box and be innovative and create something that separates you and gives value to your prospects will put you in a different class. It'll keep you at the cutting edge of how you're driving those conversations.
Right. So true, Brian. And obviously this is something that we've been battling with all the time. So there's no golden rule here, right? It's just more about always optimizing, always importing. And the idea behind this list is just getting you some ideas out there for you just to think about and say, oh, okay, this is something that I can do, but not necessarily following all the steps in the list, right? So another point, including your unique value proposition everywhere. Don't just write marketing content. So this is something that we obviously all do, but very often we make so many mistakes on. For example, even we've been creating so many pages over the years. Still, whenever we create a new page, we always make the same mistake. We are trying to sell, we're trying to market, we're trying to sort of make the content easygoing, nice reading, etc. But very often we're not including our value proposition and why do we have that content, right? So for example, if I create a page about the computer software leads, right? I can talk about, generally how you can use the leads or why the leads are cool, etc. But I don't sell the computer software leads. So by thinking about okay, what are those computer software leads that I'm trying to sell? Why you need to buy those leads? What is those leads? Why they're different from other? How you would utilize those leads? I would essentially package my content around that unique value proposition that you would get in and you say, you know what? Yes, now I understand why you need that, right? So whenever you think about any page or any content or whatever, right, just think about not necessarily how it sounds, right? But rather like what is uniquely about that specific product or feature that you're trying to sell, and what is that unique for that feature for the customer? Not necessarily about the feature, but about the customer, how they utilize that, right? So I know, I mean, let's just go quickly down. So generate client reviews consistently and then create a consistent process. So Brian, can you take that one? Generate client reviews consistently. Obviously, we've been very successful generating client reviews over the years, and that led us to be the number one there. But can you share with folks how we do that and generally how they can do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's so important because, again, this is a differentiating factor for you and your prospects. When they look your company up and they see the work that you've done and they see it from someone's perspective that is similar to them, a client's perspective, they start to frame up the impact that a partnership with you would have on their business, or the impact that your software would have on their business, or your service offering will have on their business. The reason that this is so important is because the buyer today, 80% of buyers say that they like to do their own research for on average 2 to 3 weeks before they decide to take a meeting with a company. So if they're doing their own research, then you can bet that they're looking at your LinkedIn, they're looking at your company website, they're checking your use cases, they're going to G2, they're going to Clutch, they might be going to Crunchbase, and they're doing research to collect data to do some reconnaissance before they decide out of the 50 companies that offer the same product, which 10 am I going to talk to? Which 5 am I going to talk to? And the buyer journey right now is not going to change. As we continue to self-educate, we're only going to get more maniacal around wanting to do a lot of this ourselves. We're going to ask our friends, we're going to ask our colleagues, hey, who did you use when you were looking for a CRM integration platform? Are you on private or hybrid cloud? With that said, the more reviews that you have, as you build them consistently, it does two things. One, it positions you as the expert in the space, the 800-pound gorilla that they need to talk to. But then also what it does is it starts to create organic traction online. When you have reviews getting posted and people search your company, they search your service, they search your product, you'll find that your company will naturally start moving up the organic search results online. Instead of showing up on page 2, you're showing up on page 1. Instead of showing up at result 19, now you're showing up in the top 10. The more reviews that you get posted, the greater chances you have of connecting with your buyers. Now, the way to do that effectively, because, well, how do I get reviews? Reviews are time consuming. I reach out to my customers. Nobody has time for reviews. And listen, they don't. But the way you can make life easy on your clients is build the frame of the review internally based on your delivery team, based on what you know their experience to be. So at Acme Solutions, our challenge was X, Y, and Z. The reason that we partnered with ABC Logistics is because they said that they could reduce our revenue spend by 20%, reduce our CapEx spend by 20%, which would increase the profit and loss statement. We would increase the profit that we were able to realize. They did that by doing this, and then build the framework of the review. Send it to your prospect, your client, and say, hey, I went ahead and took the liberty of building a review based on our relationship. I think you'll find once you read it that it aligns very well. If it does, would you do me the liberty of just please copying this review and pasting it and then posting it on your behalf? So you take out the work for them. It's all about less clicks. And so that makes life easy, and it'll help you increase the reviews that you get.
Yeah, and you always ask for review, right? You cannot get to the number one if you don't ask for it. People don't even, customers that are happy that work with you, they just don't have time to go there. So if you guide them through the process and say, here's how you do that. This is what, if you do this review, this is how you're going to help us, right? This is how you're going to highlight our partnership. Then people are going to do that. And one of other example that kind of Brian mentioned quickly there, whenever you aggregate and have so many reviews, right, you not just are the 10-pound gorilla in the market and then you are like highlighted in search, but also many companies are doing a lot of different guides or blog posts or ranks that, generally, like, for example, you go to Belkin to see like top 10 email deliverability tools or top 10 marketing agencies or top 10 whatever, because we do that because by, creating the content like that, we are able to generate traffic for us and generate leads for us, right? So many companies are doing that. So where do they take this top 10 list? They go to this review websites and they take the list and they create content about you and put your link there. So you grow organically as a result of this, right? And you do that by consistently, like asking clients for reviews and and posting those reviews with clients to top 2, top 3 platforms that, that get more, that have more the traffic, right? And then the last point on this too much noise part is create a consistent process. So everything that we've discussed just now is about consistency, right? If you generate few reviews every few months, it's not a consistent process. Try to generate a few reviews every week or every month and consistently do that over the longer period of time. You will see that, you're going to generate much more results than just by kind of parachuting that, and just doing that rapidly. And honestly, like, for example, with our marketing, right, we have so many people and so many eyes on Balkans marketing right now, or Folderly marketing right now. And it's not that we are doing so, special job on our content. No, we're just trying to be honest with it. But why we are better than all others is that we are consistent with what we are doing, right? And if you guys are consistent, then it's a road to success. So another great point, I think that this slide is almost all yours, Brian, because it's about acquisition, right? So the challenge is that you need more tools, you need more challenge, you need higher budgets to acquire the same leads, right? So it's like, what can be done here? So my first example is that I'm trying to save on the budget if I'm using an all-in-one tool like HubSpot, right? I'm not using many tools, but looking for one that is proven that I can use and I can save some of that budget, because those tools like HubSpot can give me a better deal. So some other things, for example, like sign up only on the tools that lead to acquisition, because anyone on this call, have you looked at your tech stack lately? Like all the tools that you're paying for, it's insane, right? There are some tools that we're getting like $25, $50 per tool that we probably are using once per month or once per year, right? And very often it's just too much hustle for us to turn it off. So we don't just do that. It's just continuing charging and charging and charging. So what we believe is that if you want to decrease the cost of acquisition, try to work on the tools that matter, right? And make sure that you are not using the tools that are like just out there that you need to have, but you don't necessarily use them, right? Also focus on the platforms that lead to acquisition. For example, some of you guys are doing blogs, right? And posting, and just look at how many leads or how many sales that blog led you to during the course of the year. And then opposite to this, look at what you've done on LinkedIn, for example. Are you posting regularly? Are you like really actively doing some things there and building your audience? And do you think that having more people's eyes on LinkedIn would lead you to more acquisition? If yes, then this is your platform, right? Because very often we're just focusing on things where we don't have any engagements or any traction, and those things are just kind of, just there, right? Or for example, don't save on channels and tools that lead to acquisition. The very interesting thing here as well, because and Brian, I think that you get this question a lot. It's like, it's too expensive, right? Or like, I don't have that much budget because I'm investing in so many channels, right? Like, why can you give me a discount? Or sort of like, why it's why it's so expensive, right? But obviously, to get the results, you need to pay always the dollar, right? If you wanted to get the job done, you cannot save on things that work. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. You're hitting the nail on the head. Looking at where it all goes back to what I mentioned earlier, like where's your ROI coming from? The reality is that there's a lot of tools out there. There's no shortage of SaaS companies. There's no shortage of service providers. There are companies popping up every day, and they're going to try to convince you that this tool is necessary. But look at what you need, and then when you evaluate a tool, you should never be looking at it as an expense or a cost. It should be viewed as an investment, which will force you to think about what ROI will this drive for me? If you look at it and at the end of the day, when the rubber meets the road, if this is going to equal a cost to your business, you need to really evaluate if it's necessary, because everything is going, unless you're acquiring new customers, everything else is money going out. So new business acquisition is the one time that money is coming in, that you're going to grow your business. So as you evaluate tools, you should be looking at it in the same fashion. Is this going to increase my ability to bring money in? Am I going to bring more money in? Am I going to close more deals? Is it going to help me close larger deals? If it is, great. But evaluate that, or evaluate the ROI and see anything that you're bringing on as a tool or as a service. You should drive a minimum of 2.5x for every dollar you spend back to the business, a minimum of 2.5x.
Sometimes I talk to folks and they say, well, Folderly costs $200 per seat. Why, it's so expensive. Your competitor costs $25 or like $49, right? And I always say, listen, you don't look at Folderly from the standpoint like, well, why you are not charging as your competitors are charging, right? Look at how much ROI you can get. So if I'm saying that you can double your open rates with Folderly easily, and by doubling your open rates, you're probably going to double your apply rates, and then you can generate a few more deals as the outcome of this, then any deal that costs at $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 would definitely cover the cost of the $200 mailbox per seat that portfolio, right? So just look at, as Brian just said, look at the end result or something that you wanted to achieve rather than just how much this costs for me right now, right? Because obviously the end result and ROI is much higher than just by spending those extra $50 on the tool that would definitely get the job done, right? Sometimes when you really wanted to decrease your acquisition or when the acquisition is expensive, it's time to rethink your pricing strategy, right? Just time to think about like, okay, am I charging my customers enough? Because sometimes because we are running so fast, and sometimes we're trying to add additional services. It's like, you know what? I just hired this few incredible customer success managers that are really doing the great job. They're just out there talking with the customer every day. So obviously you're spending your money on those customer success managers, but you're not charging your customers extra for that, right? So think about this. Okay, maybe it's time for me to increase my average deal size, and then I'll be more comfortable. Because very often, it's not about how much you charge. It's about what value you can create to customer and how you can, and how what good work you can do for them, right? So very often our customers can really or want to pay more if you offer a premium service. Just to think about what is the best you can do for them in terms of the service and the value that you create, and then what is the comfortable deal size that you wanted to charge them, right? And if that is, if that makes your life easier, then do that. Obviously, there will be some customers that say, no, sorry, it's too expensive for me. That's fine, but maybe they are not the right customer for you, right? Maybe you would need to look for the customer that understand the value and they like the, what you're selling, and really to wanted to kind of, to get to be signed up, right? So really quickly going to optimize your spend by following best practices and focus on long-term acquisition to increase your cost. These are very similar. Essentially, try to learn a lot about the best practices. Don't just think about, oh, well, I've been doing this email marketing a long time. I know how to do it. Well, I've been using this MailChimp tool for a long time. We will use it again, right? It's not that, because best practices change, and you need to be always at your A game to make sure that you're following those best practices so that your acquisition can get down. And then because you're focusing on the long-term acquisition channels, you cannot expect to get fast results. Right, Brian? So it's like when you start and when you've never done an outbound campaign before, you've never done an outbound, you've never worked with an acquisition partner like Balkans, for example, or used to like Folderly, don't expect to success happen within the first few weeks because you've never done that, right? You need to, so it's like whenever I've been recording my first webinar and I've been setting up my microphone, I've spent hours doing that because I've never done that before, right? But I didn't expect the mic to cost like $500, so it should set up automatically within 5 minutes for me, right? The same goes with any new process that you start. Try to learn best practices and don't expect the short wins. Look at the long-term wins, right? Look at how I can build this process for me to always generate more and more ROI or more and more results every month to come. But don't look and spend months looking for something like a short-term pill that would just get you the job done right now. Yeah, so let's just kind of move on to sales and marketing process become too complex. So this one is interesting because when we think about follow best practices, learn something new, right? There are a lot of things, a lot of in and outs, every process. And sometimes it's just too much to learn, right? How I don't want to spend my time on, on just learning everything, right? So what do I do? So here are some tips. We might go through all of them, but just make a screenshot of it. So essentially what we recommend, right? I will start with this. I will start with outsource when it's possible. And I'll give you, Brian, you give you the word. So like when do people need to outsource their, for example, outbound campaigns, or, when they can employ Belkins, for example, when is the good time?
That's a great question. I think outsourcing becomes part of the conversation as you begin to grow your business and you start venturing into territories for your business that maybe you don't have an expertise in. So for instance, if you're a founder of a company or you created a company and your previous roles, you were the business development manager or the VP of business development on a couple of different companies, and you have a breadth of experience on how to build an outbound strategy, then you might not look to an outsourced partner unless you want to supplement the cost of building a team internally. That said, so as you start to venture into these different territories of marketing, of sales, of business acquisition, lead generation, content creation, blogging, all of brand awareness, if you look at this and you go, I'm probably not, I don't have a PhD in this, I should probably loop in somebody's help. It's very similar to our bodies. If you feel an ache, you don't self-diagnose, you go to the doctor. Your car, if you hear it clicking or if your car stops, you don't take it home and put it on the driveway and jack it up and get underneath of it unless you're a mechanic. You call a mechanic, you call an expert. You're outsourcing everything in our lives. Everything in our lives we outsource. We hire people to help us with our outfits. We go to restaurants to outsource our meals getting cooked for us because it tastes better. So you should operate in the same fashion when it comes to your business. Just because you created an awesome idea, a great product, doesn't necessarily make you a great marketer. And actually, the crazy thing is nobody expects you to be. Nobody expects an entrepreneur to have it all figured out. And so, when you hit those areas and you hit those roadblocks and you're like, man, we've sent out 50,000 emails and we've only gotten 10 responses. Right. Well, that's a sign that you probably should loop in somebody else.
Right. But then just to add on this, right? Learning things, they don't just have others to do it for you. This is very important, right? Because sometimes when you outsource, you just say, you know what, Brian, just do that for me. And I don't care how this works. I wanted you guys to get the results. But like any outsourcing is about collaboration. It's like when you go to a restaurant, you ask a waiter, what you recommend? How does it work? It's like what I would do, et cetera, et cetera. So you collaborate on things. You not just throw a menu and say, you know what, just bring me whatever is the best that you guys have, right? You just kind
Absolutely.
So everything works in collaboration. So if something is too complex for you, you don't just spend hours doing that yourself. Rather than you can engage with someone that have a major experience in this, have done that over and over again, but at the same time, collaborate with that person, right? Learn from that person, like how you guys do that, how I can do that, and throw some ideas out. Because very often, any new things, even creating content or sending out emails, obviously everyone can contribute something from their own experience, from their industry, right? That makes the whole process or the whole project more and more successful. So people that are using Folderly, for example, right? There are some folks that just sign up for Folderly and say, hey, I signed up, I integrated, I expect this to work, right? Rather than say, okay, how did product work? What is else that I can do to help the product to succeed, right? Like what else I can do? Can I change my DNS records? Can I work on my blacklist? Can I work on my copy? You don't just click on the button and say, you know what, Folderly, just get the job done, right? You really wanted to collaborate. So right now, any tool, any process, any outsourcing needs a collaboration, right? By collaboration, you would be able to learn the process, you would be able to simplify that process for yourself, and you will also be able to ensure the success of that project or that project. Because very often, only through collaboration, we've seen success. Without collaboration, there's nothing you can do, right, that just makes success. Obviously, there might be chance, right? Might be some times that you can get the job done, but it's rarely happens. So if you want to decrease the risk, collaborate. And just going down the list, right? It's better to hit more doors than less. So I think quarter 4 is the time to be persistent, right? So it means that if you can send an extra follow-up and be creative without it, if you can get another call, if you can talk to a customer, if you can remind about yourself, create some other push. So it's a time to speed things up, just to do extra. And by doing extra, you will see that, that's where kind of the change is, right? So we always, so try to do extra all this time. Create a growth plan and follow it. So very often we've seen that folks just kind of do things without having an actual plan. And at some point in time, you do need to have a plan and follow the plan. And for you to have the plan, you need to put that in writing, right? You just kind of have it, etc. So have the plan, make sure that everyone in your team knows about the plan, knows about the numbers, can articulate those numbers, and then just follow the plan every day, every week, every month. And then in 3 months, when the year ends, just think about, okay, what's been done, how I'm following my plan, and how I can develop another plan, right? And then 2 last points here, and then we were moving on to another slide. Marketing and sales is always the priority for the business. It is. So essentially, if you're not investing in your marketing and sales right now, then you're not going to be growing next year. And if you're not going to be growing next year, then your team is not going to be happy. Your customers are not going to be happy. Your product is not going to be happy, right? Everyone's not going to be happy if you're not growing. No one wants to stand still, right? Everyone wants to change. Everyone wants to grow because everything around us grows, right? It's like a new iPhone every year, right? Like we need to have something new every year. We need the growth. And growth is something that, what people appreciate and generally want, and the customer appreciate, because there's always new things that are happening with you. So for you to grow, you need sales and marketing. So never save on sales and marketing. This is the priority for every business. Every business in any industry needs sales and needs marketing. And then optimize your spend by following the best practices. Obviously, as I've mentioned in my previous slides, and as just Brian mentioned, always optimize, always learn, always collaborate, right? All right, so interesting numbers here. Where and how businesses are investing in sales development. So based on 5,000 correspondents that we had this year alone, about 70% of businesses are investing in cold outreach. 60% of businesses are doing omni-channel marketing, right? It means that they're investing into 3 or more channels. They're not doing 1 or 2. Only 47% are doing ads and partner promotions. Only 47%. So still there are some businesses that really heavily focus on ads, but it's only 47%, so the half of it. So more people omni-channel, more people cold outreach. 40% are doing content and SEO strategy, and 35% are doing social selling on LinkedIn. And I think this, folks, is a mistake. I think like 35% I think that more businesses should do social selling on LinkedIn specifically. I think more businesses should go out there and just kind of put their name out there and focus on building the audience and building content. And because this is where more eyes are. I think that, and this is where the organic traffic is. So let me give you just a very brief example. So if you go and check our fall release sales team LinkedIn's, right? Like my Sasha's LinkedIn or Dan's LinkedIn, you will see that they're regularly posting something. And they're not just doing that because they need to post. What they're doing this is that they're nurturing their audience on LinkedIn that allows them to re-engage their connections and get those connections to close. So whenever they talk to someone and they connect with that person on LinkedIn, and then by regularly kind of popping up and putting their name in front of them, they're able to nurture them to the point when the prospect is ready to talk shop, right? And because of that, and we call it social selling. And this is a budget-friendly, consistent process that you can do that you don't need to spend, thousands of dollars for, but that would lead you to more and more success. And this channel would help with your content strategy, will help you with your ad strategy, will help your, cold outreach strategy. So I think that we need to get this number to 50-60% in the next year. So guys who are listening to this right now, make sure that you are very active on LinkedIn, not just by sending out connection requests, but really creating organic content, original content, and just generally going out there and having your team doing that, not just 1 or 2 people, but as many people as you can. All right, cold outreach. So Brian, so I think that this one is for you. So what is that about the cold outreach? So the first one, don't outsource cold calling. What do you think about the cold calling, Brian?
Oh my gosh, listen, I can spend the rest of this time trying to convince everyone and anyone that will listen to this why outsourced cold calling doesn't exist. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to I want to put a couple points out there, and I just wanted to provoke your thought. I want you to think about the last time that you got a phone call from a number that you didn't recognize and you picked up the phone. I just wanted to give a moment of silence for all of those empty messages that you have on your voicemail that are in the grave right now, because nobody picks up the phone if they don't know the number. Nobody does. It's not. And if they do, it's because they thought you were someone else. If you get them on the phone, they're in between meetings or they're on their way to dinner with their family. They're not going to want to talk to you about a sales conversation. Cold calling, outsourced cold calling is invasive, and it's the antithesis of what you're trying to accomplish. If you hire somebody to set appointments for you, to do it through outbound cold calling, you can bet your ass that they're going to call that prospect 15 times a day. And the only reason that you have a meeting is because they just wanted the calls to stop. Fine, I'll take a call with you. Trust me. Email outreach is by and large the highest. Email outreach will generate 4,200% ROI in 2023. That's $42 to every dollar you spend on email outreach. That's real. 70% of consumers have said that they prefer to have buying conversations via email. People they don't even care about talking on the phone that much unless it's somebody that they know or they care about. So reach out to them. The level of engagement is completely different. Trust me. If you want to talk about this, reach out to me directly after this. Trust me, it doesn't work. I'm not saying cold calling doesn't work. I'm saying outsourced cold calling doesn't work. Don't do it.
Yeah. Plus, no one wants to do that, right? Like I just, yesterday, I interviewed a BDR who wants to join our team. And I said, you know what, can you give me an example of a bad practice or something that you don't want to bump into when you join Belkins? And she said, you know what, I don't want to do cold calling. And I was like, well, this is the surprise. It's just, instead of telling, you know what, I don't like when, there's unethical behavior or there's like a bad communication, etc. She told, we don't want to do cold calling. I don't want to have the feeling of doing that without actually getting the result out of it because it doesn't work specifically. So yeah. So a few other points. Spend money on good leads, original leads. So what we mean by this. So some of you folks are using, let's say, Apollo, right? Or ZoomInfo. And think about how many companies have the same access to the same leads that are exporting the same type of companies every day. So if you have an ICP that are like fintech startups or that are like, I don't know, like top 100 startups, whatever, right? You would be surprised, but obviously, all of them using Apollo, people are using Apollo to actually do leads. So think about the ways how you can access leads that are more original, that not many companies have access. Don't think about like using the tool that is very popular, that all of them people are using, because the idea, the thing about the leads is that leads, like money, likes quiet, right? So you really wanted them to, less people have access to it. So if you see tools, for example, like we've developed leads for specifically for that, we are still underdog on the market. We've been on the market for like 4 months. Obviously, we don't have thousands of customers. We've had some traction, but it's in hundreds. So it means that less people have access to our leads, less people wrote those leads and conquered those leads. So there's a higher chance that you can engage with those leads and get the results, right? Just to think about this, about how you can get leads that are original, that not many people contacted. And in that way, you can definitely get more results in Q4. Set up and warm up your email domain and accounts. Specifically, you can use Folderly for that. So the idea is that you want it to run fast, right? Because it's Q4, it's already end of September. You really wanted to put more gas in the fire, right? And if you do that, make sure that you don't just ruin your domain and your mailboxes. So make sure that they warmed up. So you need to have a very nice process or the tool to have them warmed up. That's why sign up for Folderly, get them warmed up today, over the weekend, for example, you have still Friday, Saturday, Sunday, get them a few days and then just go and run your campaigns. Never just set up, import leads, set up campaigns and just start sending out emails without actually warming up infrastructure. Another point, use only dedicated tools for cold outreach, right? Don't use your CRMs, don't use HubSpot.io, HubSpot, don't use, MailChimp, don't use any tools or CRMs like Salesforce for sending out emails because they were not built for that. Use engagement tools that were used specifically for sending out emails. But when you use those tools, make sure that your infrastructure is warmed up correctly. So you don't just set up a reply.io campaign and expect it to run smoothly, right? If you didn't warm up your infrastructure before that, then it's not going to work. So make sure that it's warmed up and then use the dedicated outreach tool. And then one other thing is the recommendation for the cold outreach. Use LinkedIn to nurture and build brand, right? Make sure that all the people that you reached out to, you connect with them on LinkedIn, you message them, you like or endorse them, you are active on LinkedIn, and if you do that consistently, then you will see that all of your cold outreach campaign will be more and more successful. And that is the very good start for the omni-channel approach, right? Because that's like 2 channels, and now you add some retargeting, and then you add some content, you add some SEO, you add some, social proof, say like testimonials, and then you have all 6 channels, and that's what the omni-channel approach is. So you can see it's very easy. You just need to start doing that. All right, so 4 minutes, and we are doing the Q&A. All right, so think about the questions, put them in chat, and then we're gonna have 10 minutes to answer the question. All right, so social selling on LinkedIn, what is that about? Basically, what you do on LinkedIn, you expand your audience consistently, add people. You work on your personal influencing brand, right? So you post it yourself, not just on the company page. Every person that is in sales and marketing, all the board members, founders, they're doing the LinkedIn, right? Follow the best practices on LinkedIn, not just post. Like, think about this. What is the post that I can create? How I use hashtags? What is the right structure for me? How do I work on my imaging? How do I work on my videos, etc.? Just, be smart about it, right? Post consistently, right? So we internally have this editorial calendar where we put all the posts, and we have the schedule, the timeline, as also we post how many views we generated, so that when we can in retrospective look at it, we can say, okay, what were the posts that generated the most views for us? What else we can create there? So we are smart about this, but we're doing that because we're consistent with our posting. Not just post it once randomly, once per month, but try to do that consistently. And then you'll see that by consistently generating 10 or 500 views or 1,000 views per post and doing several posts per week, you're closer to generating 1 million views over the course of the year. And then by having 1 million views and not having those 1 million views, it's a totally different ballgame, right? And then share original content and make sure that you're not just creating the content for the sake of the content, but try to create value. Again, special promotions, maybe some tips that you can create, some ideas, videos, share some thoughts, and just really be creative about the way you do that. And it's very simple. You just take the iPhone and take your pen and just do that, right? All right, so I'm not going to be stopping on this omnichannel marketing, just really, going through the list real quick. So we all know we need to optimize our website for the SEO content purpose, and just making sure that the website has a nice visuals. You cannot have poor website without a unique value proposition in 2022. You cannot, right? You need to have a very nice website. Work on your social consistently. I've mentioned that already. Collect client testimonial consistently. We've talked about that. Ask for testimonials, right? Produce actionable and insightful case studies with your clients. Oh my God, I saw so many case studies with people, with companies that just basically creating a case study for the case of having those case studies without any value of them, right? Just share those value, just write about what we've done, how we've done that, what are the thoughts or what are the insights that we've got from it, right? And just make sure that the case study is about the result of, not just about the result of the work, but about the process of the work and the things that were done and how you've done that, just to educate people through case studies. For example, if you go to Follerly or Belkin's case study for that matter, and you click on financial industry or fintech, for example, you will see how Belkin's team worked on that fintech client, not the result that we generated, but what was the work, what were the industries, how we've done that, what were the challenges, how we overcame those challenges. So you as the fintech company will say, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how it's different, not just the result that you generate. No one cares about the results. People care about how how you ended up achieving those results, what you've done differently than what I'm doing, right? Create content for acquisition separately for engagement, right? There are some content that is for the acquisition, blog posts, traffic generated blog posts or traffic generated content, or etc. And there are some engagement ones like one pagers, PDFs, different reports, you name it, right? Just make them and then use those in your sales and marketing to generate more engagements. For example, webinars is a great way of generating engagement, right? Create different type of content, not just create blog posts. Create different type of content from the short term to a long term content, right? Don't forget about your pipeline. Nurture it all the time, right? What is the omnichannel approach? It's about the pipeline, right? Brian, I think like this year alone, we've hit a few opportunities that you've been working for like few years, right? Like since 2020 or something.
Yeah, literally. I have I closed a couple of clients over the past 2 months, and I went back and looked, and I was like, wow, I had my first conversation with them over a year ago, and I went back through the communications that I've had, and I'm like, man, like I've sent them probably, I mean, the last 12 months, I've probably sent them 65 different communications. Some of it was warranted, they requested it. Other times it wasn't, where I reached out to them and sent them content where I saw an article that made me think of their company. And I said, hey, Sally, just sending this to you because I read it and I thought about you guys. And I think that, if you read it, you'll find some value in it. Not soliciting her for anything, yes. Not asking her for a meeting, just sending it to her because I'm trying to be thoughtful. And then she literally reached out to me and was like, Brian, thank you so much for staying in touch. I'm sorry that I haven't reached back out to you, but I've always read your messages and I appreciate it so much. I'd like to revisit the conversation. Next thing you know, 2 weeks later, we're signing a contract and starting our partnership together. So yeah, don't, just because you're not getting replies, don't get disheartened. Obviously, you have to be sensitive and you don't want to harass people. You don't want to bother them. But if you're sending them valuable content, it matters to them. They'll read it. And so just trust that when the time comes and they have a need, they're going to think about you.
Yeah. All right. Common challenges of an unprepared email outreach. We're not going to be talking at all. I'm sorry, we don't have time for that. I really wanted to answer those questions. So just make a screenshot of it real quick and we'll go there. So on the left side, why emails land in spam, and then how we fix those emails. Followerly was specifically built to make sure that all of those fixes are in one place. So you can really, log in the platform, test everything from your IP to your domain reputation, to your DNS records, to your blacklist, to your inbox placement. You can have all the information mapped out for you in a very simple language. So you don't even need to be an email deliverability expert to understand how it works. And then you also always have someone behind your back, like customer success manager that is there, that can be, that is available, answer questions, get on the calls, help you to get the job done. And by the way, to tell the truth, I'm not sure whether we're doing that in the best interest for the business, but we're not charging for that. So it means that every person in the team is available from the customer success team to be able to answer your question, help you to get on the call, get connected and solve your problem, even if you're paying us $200 or you're paying us $5,000. It's the same engagement for every customer. So while it's still there, benefit from that, sign up for Followerly and work with our team to fix all of your challenges. And then why the emails might land in spam, you see here on the screen. Cutting edge tips to hacks to spike up your sale with emails. Again, basically 30 minutes, right? So what you need to do to get your emails to your inbox, right? To the prospect inbox. Validate all your prospect emails. Never send out emails without validation. Reach out to your target audience to avoid spam flagging, right? Set up your DNS records. Always set up your DNS records, and you can use Followerly for that. Create engaging content and subject lines. Never use generic subject lines, generic content. And you can use, we have a new product called WordSteer. It's wordsteer.io. We're going to put the link in the description, or if we're going to have the recording, it's will in the recording, and you can sign up to get your tailored templates as well. The sequence should be 5-6 follow-up messages per sequence. Adhere to natural limits. So every mailbox or every tool that you're using has a natural limit. So don't have over capacity in terms of how many emails you send. Personalization is the key. Show me you know me, right? It means that personalize as you can, not just company name or first name is the variable, right? Always A/B test. When we mentioned A/B test the channel, A/B test messages, A/B test value proposition, always A/B test. Don't just think, oh, this is how we need to sell it. Just ask for different options and see which one works, right? Never use personal emails, right? Like it's not compliant. And I've done actually last month, I've done the webinar about the GDPR compliance. So for those who didn't attend those webinar, go ahead and check out our Belkin's YouTube channel, and you'll learn more about how to be compliant with GDPR, Castle, and CAN-SPAM law. And then don't be afraid to mix in other channels, your outreach to drive the best results. So what it means to be omni-channel, right? All right, so here are the webinars. So you will see that on the recording. You just click on the link and you will get all the webinars. Here is the first one, how to close outbound leads. Great webinar, hour and a half. Me and Brian had talked specifically about how to close leads from the outbound channel, because so many customers ask us, hey guys, how do you close leads, right? What is the best practice? You're experts, tell us how. And we've talked about hour and a half for how we close that, right? Questions. All right, so we still have 5 minutes for questions. Sorry about that. You saw there's a lot of content there. So, all right, so the question from how to outreach properly in B2B fintech industry. There are less deals per quarter and the checks are higher. So what would you recommend? Brian, when you talk to companies in fintech industry, what would you recommend? What is the best outreach strategy for them?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that come to mind when I think about fintech. So obviously the space is pretty saturated with companies that are prospecting into them. So your ability to personalize your outreach and to make sure that it's tailored to that specific individual. I'm not saying spend 20 minutes on every message, but maybe spend a little bit more time getting to know their business and making sure that the message that you send to them is relevant. The fact that the checks are higher means you're probably targeting companies that are a little bit larger, which means you should account for some of the bureaucracy that comes along with that, which makes the decision-making process a little bit more extended. So what does that mean to you? That means that your approach to them should be more consultative. It's not so much about me selling them on something. It's about me checking to see if they have a problem that I'm specifically built to solve. And then if they're interested in having a conversation about it, that first conversation, I wouldn't be pitching anything. I would be trying to get to know their business, trying to build trust, make sure that they see you as an expert. That way, as you take them through your sales journey, they're more comfortable talking about the numbers. They're more comfortable discussing the details of their business. And then eventually the natural conclusion of 2-3 conversations will be that they should get into business with you because you know their business, they trust you, and you've consulted with them to get them to that place. And so don't expect them to close in the same time frame that another industry may or a smaller company may. Just account for that bureaucratic process where you're probably going to have to speak to 2 or 3 or 4 title holders within that company, because nobody wants to be the sole one responsible for spending $300,000 or $500,000 on a product. So they're going to loop in everybody else because they don't want to be on the island by themselves. So just account for that. Ask them questions that are thoughtful. So who else is involved in this decision-making process? Who else would bring value to this conversation? And then take them through the sales journey very thoughtfully, and just be sensitive to the fact that you're going to have to really build that trust with them for them to feel comfortable to do business with you.
Right. Sean here asked, open rates have taken a big dip for us towards the second half of the year. Have email open rates decreased across the board? So Sean, yes, actually. So this year was a very interesting year, specifically for Q3, because this was the first year where, and again, I don't know, Sean, what your markets are, but for example, in Europe, there was the first year, COVID-free year, where people just went out for a vacation, for a long vacation. They've been traveling a lot. And I think that even for the US, also there was the first year where the COVID was less constrained. So people can go out, can socialize, can travel more, et cetera. So that was, the third quarter had a slight decrease in open rates. But then what we've seen is that the second part of September, actually the whole September, we're going up to where we've been doing the second quarter, right? If you have a big dip, sometimes what might happen is that you definitely need to check your, even if you didn't change your nothing in your process. For example, you didn't change your lead list, you didn't change your tools, whatever, but you got a dip. Sometimes might happen that your company name, or for example, some of the wording that you had in your templates had been blacklisted, and because of that, the whole approach, went underwater. So for you to change that, you need obviously to change your content, to rephrase the wording, but also to build up your reputation again to where it's been during the first part of the year. And you can do that we have in the folder, we have the template analysis section where you can analyze the template, what are the spam words that are in your content, and then also build up your reputation using our spam fixing engine, right? What makes HubSpot a bad choice for emailing lists created from the lead generation tools? So when you use HubSpot, there are two things. So first, in HubSpot, you can only use email marketing hub or email marketing part if people signed up for it, and if they do, the HubSpot use their own servers for sending out emails. So essentially, think about this as the HubSpot has their own pixel, and because of that, most of the email go to promotion folder. So all the mailboxes, they consider those emails to be marketing, so their open rates are lower. And then when you use in sequences, you cannot have the right, you cannot do the A/B testing, and you cannot do the different techniques. For example, like instead of putting the opt-out link, you can put it as a PS. If you don't want to hear from me, let me know. So instead of links, you can put the words there and some other things. So that's why actually a lot of companies or there are companies that are called engagement platforms, specifically for the purpose of doing the cold outreach, because there's so many things that you can do with the feature that they have, this just HubSpot doesn't have. So on the back end, HubSpot use their own tracking and pixels that harm decrease the durability and generally the performance of the emails, and then the features that help you to play around and optimize your campaigns. There's a question here in the chat. Can you tell me more about the worst tier? So we are out of time. So for those guys that are tuning out and really need to go for other calls, I appreciate you taking the time and joining us today. So we will have this as a recording that, let me check. Do I have the recording? Yes, I had that recorded. Because I've done some time that I didn't record that. So we have this recorded. It's going to be available on our YouTube, and we're going to send an email for this. So yeah. So if you need to go, go, and I appreciate taking the time. If you still have a few minutes to listen to me answering, Brian answering to a few more questions, stay here on the line. We're going to answer those questions, and then obviously going to see that in the recording, right? So someone asked in the chat, tell us more about the worst tier. So essentially what we've done is we've created this product we call worst tier. Right now it's still an agency, it's a service company. So what we do there is we help companies with tailored templates. So if you have an outreach campaign that you don't like and you're not sure how to write a sequence that is conversive, right, that converts, you don't know what subject lines to use, you don't know what email bodies to use, you don't know what the playbooks are out there, and you don't have time to research, you'd rather spend $1,000 to have a sequence that is created by professional template writers that have been trained for that work with hundreds of companies. So the worst tier gets you covered, right? So with the worst tier, you can order any type of template for any industry, any sequence for as many waves as you want. And our professional template writer who've done that for other companies in your industry can do that for you, create your tailored campaign, and then you can run that campaign. And then based on the results, you can work with our team to make and tune the campaign and have it then a very high productive email sequence that convert leads, right? So worst tier is, I'm very passionate about the worst tier because I'm not involved in it on a daily basis, but I know the team behind it. They're incredible, and they're focused right now on creating every sequence that convert. And especially it's cool for the Q4, right? Because you need the results fast. So that's why go to worsttier.io and order your template. So another question here, what about the enterprise companies? Is that possible to reach enterprise companies by email? Take into account that there's, that those companies are less engaged with, right? So Brian, can you share real quick here, like what are your thoughts on engaging with enterprise companies, like, or doing lead gen on enterprise companies? What are the best practices there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a few thoughts around this. the first thing is to set your expectations properly. Can you get appointments through emailing enterprise companies? Absolutely. Let's say hypothetically that the decision maker that you need to reach is the CFO. What does it mean to get the CFO's attention? Well, if that's the only person you want to talk to, then you need to account for having a more strategic and a more thoughtful approach on getting their attention. And C-level executives at enterprise-sized companies are the busiest, and everybody wants to talk to the Jeff Bezoses and the Elon Musks of the world. So you can bet your hind end that these people are getting tons of outreach. So what you might need to do is you might need to take a couple steps back and say, instead of reaching out to the CFO, maybe you reach out to the VP of finance, or maybe you reach out to the director of finance to try to initiate that conversation and then have them champion it up to the CFO if they see the need. The other things around generating appointments with C-level or with enterprise-sized companies is obviously if you have any type of connection to the business, any type of connection you can leverage, you don't even have to necessarily know them, but you can be connected to them on LinkedIn and then leverage that to get your foot in the door. Either way, when it comes to getting enterprise companies, you should expect that the conversion will be lower than going after small to mid-tier size companies. So for the same campaign that I would run for one of our clients, where we might drive 10 meetings a month, if we're going after small to medium-sized companies, we might use that same campaign where we reach out to the same number of people, but it's enterprise-sized companies, and we might drive 3 meetings a month at that level. So just recognize that the conversion is lower, and you've got to be more strategic and more thoughtful on how you actually do it. But can it be done? Absolutely. We are currently doing it, and it's effective and it's valuable. You just have to you just have to shift your thinking, shift your approach on how you do it.
Awesome, Brian. All right. So for those who stayed in there and for those who would listen to this webinar on YouTube, right? I'm just going to lower my voice here. So the way you do this is you guys will have a discount coupon for 20% on Folderly. You just type in coupon LOVE webinars and then you'll get 20% off. And guys, if you have a sales team of 5 to 10 people and you're using 5 to 10 mailboxes, and you can save $300, $400, $500 on this. So yeah, just use LOVE webinars and sign up for Folderly by clicking this link on the recording, or by just going, if you guys want to go to website folderly.com right now and just sign up and just type in LOVE webinars in the coupon section when you're going to be setting up your debit card there or your credit card there. All right. Awesome. So I really appreciate you all for joining us today. It's been fun. I apologize for running a few minutes behind the schedule. We just had so much things to discuss and so much things to share. So I really appreciate the time. And Brian, thank you very much for doing this with me as well. It's been a pleasure and fun as always. And we need to do that every year, or at least a few times a year.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. Thank you everyone for joining and listening in. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. All right. You have a great rest of your day. Okay. Take care.